May I, Mr. Bazaar?
Yeah.
Mr. Cabral? Oh, I can't, no, I can't do that. Can't do, Mrs. Hurst? Here. Mrs. Conforti are here. Okay, public communication. No, I don't do that. No, flag salute. May I please have everybody stand? I have to open. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Like to invite our two new board members, Mr. Cabral and Mr. Rivera, to come up in front, please.
Stand right there so Nancy can get some good pictures for the picture. We'll go together. If you both can raise your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Frank Rivas,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
that I bear true faith, Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this oath freely. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Discharge the duties I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Welcome to the board. The next is the election of the president of the Board of Education. May I please have nominations?
I would like to nominate Janice Conforti.
Okay. All in favor?
I,
Do I have to do, well, let me call so we know
Mhm.
everybody that's here. Mr. Bazaar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral, Mrs. Hurst,
I,
Mr. Rivers,
Aye.
Rivas, sorry. I will get there. Rivas,
Aye.
and I vote for myself, yes. 5-0. Okay. Election of the clerk of the board. May I have a nomination?
Well, I'd like to nominate Rosalie if she'd like to serve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Cabral. Okay, Mr. Bazaar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral, Mrs. Conforti votes aye, Mrs. Hurst, Mr. Rivers. Rivas, I'm going to do Rivers. I apologize. We need to appoint a superintendent as secretary of the governing board
so moved.
for Mr. Posey. Okay.
And I'll second that too.
Okay. Rose, yes, second. Okay, Mr. Bazaar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral, Mrs. Conforti votes aye, Mrs. Hurst,
I,
Mr. Rivas. Passes 5-0. Election of trustee representative of the governing board. I nominate Mr. Bazaar.
I second that.
Mr. Cabral.
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
I,
Mr. Rivers, Revere.
Aye.
I'm gonna Revis, sorry, it will take me probably till the end of tonight, and Mrs. Conforti votes aye, 5-0. Okay,
I vote for myself too.
yes. Authorize superintendent, assistant superintendent of curriculum, instruction, and Title IX coordination, and president or clerk of the board to sign all warrants and orders in the name of the board.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Cabral. It'll take me a while to get used to knowing voices. Mr. Bazar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst. Mhm. Mhm. Oh, yes,
Yes.
Mr. Rivas
Aye.
and Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Appoint standing committee representatives. These are for our LCAP. It is the local control accountability plan. I you put them all together. And we also have 2+2, which has to do with two board members or a board member, 2 board members going to the town and the pool subcommittee. May I have someone who would like to volunteer? Do we,
Before we do that, I think for the new members, unless they know what these are,
yes, maybe.
pool subcommittee, we've only had a few meetings. We meet with the city manager and whoever he brings, sort of talk about the joint operation of the pool when it gets up and running. The 2+2 is sort of the same thing. Doesn't have to be the same people. That's again with the city manager and some people from the city council. And we talk about, coordinating things. And then the LCAP is that local control accountability plan. And really the committee on that, I don't know exactly what they do because I don't think I've ever been a member of that.
So this is a
Going to
committee
the-
of all of our stakeholders. You're gonna have teachers, parents, classified staff, and a couple board members, and they really drive about 45% of the budget, of the operating budget as to where we want to spend that money, what programs we want to put into play, that type of thing. It was put in by Brown several years ago now, seems like yesterday, to really give school boards and local communities more control over where the ear tags on the state dollars go.
The LCAP, we usually have 2.
Can we meet about 2 times?
2?
Or 2 board members, yes, because you wouldn't want 3.
2 board members.
Okay, and same thing with 2+2, we have 2 board members and Mr. Posey and pool subcommittee, we usually have 2.
It's 2. Yeah, you don't want to go over the quorum mark for the Brown Act, but this is like, when I talk about you're only really empowered as a board member when you're sitting on the board or when you're in a duly constituted subcommittee. These would be those duly constituted subcommittees where you would still serve as a board member on these committees.
And rather than being nominated, we usually volunteer. Is there anyone for the LCAP?
I'll volunteer for that.
Okay, and I need one more,
Well, I'll do it since I don't think.
since you haven't been on it. Okay, 2+2.
I'll volunteer for that.
and-
I can do that one as well.
Okay. And the pool subcommittee, I'll volunteer for that too.
I can do that as soon.
Is that?
Yeah.
your friend?
Done.
Done, okay,
I'm Mr. Cabral.
right. That'll be interesting watching that be filled. Okay, we have approved a calendar of the board meetings for 2022. Did you get all those, Mrs.? Item 8? Okay. Okay, may I have, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote for the committees so that we, Do I have- a motion
So
for,
what we'd be looking for is a motion to approve the committees as just decided on by the board.
So moved.
a second?
I'll second. Okay. I'll second.
Okay, may I, Mr. Bazar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
So I'll put that in. Now we have a calendar. Should be a calendar in your packet. Is there any changes to it? Where's mine?
And what we're talking about right now are the January 9th, February 13th, March 13th, those days.
Right.
Yeah, so you should have a schedule of what traditionally would be our board meetings. And this would be the opportunity to take a look at them and see if you want to move any of them. Cabinet may have some notes on certain dates because there are certain regulatory dates that we need meetings on, but if you take a look at those, if any of them are in conflict with your professional schedule, we totally understand that. We'll talk about moving those dates.
Mhm. Do we have any changes for January? The board meeting is supposed to be on the 9th. Fine. Okay. What about the February? The board meeting is on the 13th. Okay, March, the board meeting is on the 13th again.
And that's one of those months where we keep that as close to the 15th as possible for human resource reasons. There's an important statutory date on the 15th about the release of non-permanent employees. So
The next one is April 3rd, and the reason it's on April 3rd is because spring break is on the 10th. Is there any change to that one?
I don't know if it makes any difference to anybody. I mean, I'm not gonna object to it just because of me, but it looks like my wife will be out of town and I might be going with her. I don't know.
Is it a nice place?
I don't.
she hasn't invited you yet?
If it is, the board's going. Okay. Okay,
And you said spring break is April 10th?
April, yes, it actually starts on April 7th and it goes all the way through to the 16th.
We're good. I'll be in Disney. We're good. Not until the 3rd. We're good.
Okay. So there, oops. May 8th. Fine.
Yeah.
In June, we always hold two meetings. One is our special meeting and then the 12th is our board meeting. We have a budget that has to be approved by July 1st. So
Thank you for not putting it on my birthday.
I'm still singing, so I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
We don't have a date for the special meeting yet.
it's on the 5th.
Right. These here are strictly the regular meetings. So we do have a special meeting scheduled on the 5th. It's important that the budget is approved at a regular meeting. That's why the regular meeting needs to be the 12th, and then
Right.
the special meeting will be the 5th, where you get a chance to review the budget.
They're okay with it.
We have no meetings in July unless for some reason we have to call a special meeting. August is the 14th. Okay. September, we have the 11th. October the 9th. November the 13th. And on December, it's the 11th. That's fine with everyone? Okay, thank you.
You'll need a motion.
Yes, may I have a motion
Motion
to,
to approve.
I second.
Mr. Bazar,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Rivas,
Aye.
and Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's passed 5. A review of the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District Governance Handbook. That was in our, well, they couldn't look at it, right? It was online?
So this is kind of like a first read. You'll take a look at this starting tonight, and then any changes you want to make to it or propose to make to it, you bring it back to the next board meeting. And then it'll become our handbook if there are no changes. That'll be like kind of second read, and we'll
Right.
approve it tomorrow, or not tomorrow. That'd be crazy. Next
Oh,
week,
yeah.
we'll approve
Next board meeting, right?
Obviously, I will update board members' names and such.
now that you're.
Yes.
Don with the O, not Dan.
Hey, that wasn't me.
And the next will be the first reading and discussion of the board bylaw 9100 with highlighted options.
So this is a CSBA, California School Board Association, sends us their vetted policies and then we look at them and you'll do a first read and a second read. And upon the second read, they become our policies. Sometimes they put little options in that either or are okay, or you have optional paragraphs altogether, and they're designed that we make them look like our practices. So normally what happens is a cabinet will take a board policy or an administrative regulation and we'll go through all their options and make it our policy. And then if there's any discussion, we can have that. Since these were board bylaws, I left the choices in there because they're really the five of you deciding how the five of you wish to do business. So if you could take a look at those, especially with the highlighted options, and decide which way you would like to see the policies or the bylaws, exist. And then if any changes you wish to have, if you could email them to me, I will email them out to the rest of the board before the next meeting. We'll do the second reading at the next meeting, and then they'll become our bylaws.
Are there any questions about? No?
They should
You do.
discuss
Do we, if we actually want to have the discussion like now, one of the options is the election of officers on the end of the page of 9100. You have the option of the board member shall each year elect one of its members to be the clerk or vice president. The members shall be one who previously has not served in the office as one option, or we can write it however we do. Our current practice is it's open for anybody. And like you just saw, we do that each time. There's also, just like it says on option 2, that's what we kind of do. The board shall each year elect its entire slate of officers. Or you also have the option of putting term limits down. So like no board member shall serve, that's at the top of the next page, shall serve more than blank consecutive years in the same office. So you have that option of having those contingencies on the bylaws.
this is an option.
Right.
And they have to decide how many.
Got it. So kind of maybe a conversation if you want to have it. It's really the board's will. If you're leaning towards option 1 or option 2,
That's
any incarnation of there. And then if you would like to put a term limit, we would need to know what that term limit is for the highlighted. So it's a good chance to have a discussion so we can make it look like that for next.
I find it, and I've been on the board for quite a while. It seems to work well. Sometimes, once you become familiar, you don't mind having different people change because we tend to be a board that's very cohesive. And we, kind of talk here, not separately, like over dinner. We don't want to mess up the Brown Act, but it seems that you can voice an opinion and say, it's something I really have enjoyed working on, but if there's someone else that wants to do it. So it gives us that option. And sometimes when you give someone a term limit, the problem that I've seen on other boards, you have 2 years or 3 years and all of a sudden something happens and they have to leave. So if it's done yearly, it seems to work best for me, but I can go with the flow. Other discussions?
What's the normal? Is it every year, just like we did tonight, you pick?
Yes, every year, like at the organizational meeting, we do
It's
just
worked
like
out,
we did
it's worked
now.
out fine up until this point.
As far as I know, it has. I mean, I think I've been on the board like 14 years, something like that. And it has changed, it has changed for different things because someone's position outside of the board has changed or something, or someone says, I had 1 year, that's enough. I don't want to have the 2 or 3 years. But there's questions? But look over and think, mull it through, and when we come back next week and next month, right? We can wait till next month.
Yeah, if we're leaning towards keeping it the way it is, I'll make it reflect that as the default, unless we have other conversation to change it before it's approved next month. If there was a desire to change it, we'll just kind of make it look like whichever way you're leaning tonight. But I'm kind of hearing it's not broke, so don't fix it type.
Yeah. I know there are other boards that have, term limits. I just lost my page. Okay, is there any other discussion or questions that we have? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn. Okay. It is now 4:20, no, that clock's wrong.
422 on.
Okay, 4:22. Okay.